We are going steady with today's live streams, and now we're back to that entrepreneur show, and we're focusing on if Donald Trump will stop the solar industry. We're bringing on a powerhouse in this field. We're going to be focusing on the booming world of renewable energy. He's a true industry leader. We're joined today by Tim Montague, the driving force behind not only the Clean Power Hour podcast, but the president, founder of the Clean Power Consulting Group. Tim, thanks for spending some time with That Entrepreneur Show.
Great to be here, Vince. Nice to meet you.
I'm excited to have you on. Today, we're going across the country, and today, again, we're focusing on this world that many aren't as well informed as they should be as we're looking towards the future. A lot of changes, and he's not just talking about the future of energy. He's building it with over 50 megawatts of commercial and community solar projects under his belt. Track record of generating six-figure revenues. He's a master at his craft. If this is your first show with us, welcome to That Entrepreneur Show, the #1 podcast for small business owners and entrepreneurs. If you're returning, thank you for sticking with us and helping make this show a top 2.5% global show. We can't do it without you or the amazing guests, and this week's show is brought to you by JohnFord.com and theEmpathySet.com, where he has his new Empathy app and card set, along with Coming Alive Podcastproduction.com if you want to start your podcasting journey today. And we're diving right into this, Tim. I like to split my show up in 3 phases: before, right in here, right now, and then what's coming next. So walk us through why you not only started this company, but why you became an entrepreneur.
Yeah, both my grandfathers are entrepreneurs on my mom's and dad's sides. My grandpa in Chicago, Grandpa Murphy, ran the Black Diamond, which is an energy publication focused on the coal industry. Illinois is a big coal state. Most people don't realize that. We still have mine mouth power plants in southern Illinois where they dig the coal out and burn it and make electricity. So there's a legacy there. Yeah. My dad is a techie. He's an entrepreneur. He's a journalist, a content creator, author, writer. And so content creation just is in my blood as well. So energy, technology, content, and then helping others and creating a safer, healthier future for humanity are passions of mine. And I try to integrate that into everything I do.
I love that. Just here for the show notes, the content creation in his blood. I thought that was a really cool line. Did you think that you were going to follow direct industry in entrepreneurship? Did you ever think you'd be the journalist type?
I did have my hand at being a writer, and I learned that I was very slow. That was the biggest thing. I could do it. I can put together an article or other pieces of writing, but yeah, it just was not the thing for me. I still do write for a magazine called PV Magazine. Okay. And what I usually do, though, in that regard is I take a webinar or an expert panel, I take an interview, and then I take some value-added topic like a white paper, and I distill that into an article. And doing something like that where I'm weaving in my other content just makes it a lot easier for me. But yeah, other than that, like having a conversation like what you and I are doing, I learned is much easier than pen to paper. And so that's what I do as far as my content goes. I have conversations, whether it's one-on-one or one-to-many.
Well, keep up the great work that you're doing. Now, while we're in the beginning talks of your journey, we're on these topics. What would you say some of the harder parts for you when you dove into entrepreneurship, perhaps some things you wish you knew when you started?
Yeah, being an entrepreneur, you have to just jump many times, right? There's so many uncertainties. Will I be able to make a living? Will I be happy? Will I succeed? And so it's not for everyone. I get it. Like, you have to throw caution to the wind and step out and just to have faith that you will figure it out. And yeah, you make mistakes. And I guess like one of my few regrets, Vince, is not getting into clean energy sooner. I knew about it as a kid. I was building hot water panels in my backyard in Albuquerque, New Mexico, where I grew up. and solar hot water was a thing in the 70s, 80s, really into the 90s. And then solar PV came along, photovoltaics, making electricity from sunshine. That kind of eclipsed the hot water industry because it just became cheaper. And so you would no longer, generally speaking, put hot water panels on your roof. You would just put photovoltaics. You see this in Florida, you see it in Texas, you see it here in Illinois, California, and Colorado, and New Jersey, all over the country now. And it's a massive change that's happening. We're cleaning the grid. We're creating a safer, healthier future. But yeah, I just to circle back to what I would do differently, I would find a mission sooner. It took me a long time to realize, like, oh yeah, safer, healthier future, technology, sustainability. That's my mission. Combining those things. And I really didn't. I just wandered. I followed my passions. I was very interested in many different things. I was an ecologist. I was a social worker. I was a recruiter. I was a small business owner. I owned a graphic design firm. I was a consultant. And then, I finally found my way to photovoltaics and helping other solar companies. Like, that's my bread and butter, is helping solar companies go further, faster. I'm a helping professional, but in the business realm. I didn't want to be like a therapist. I almost became a therapist, and I'm glad I didn't, because I don't want to hear people's problems all day long. I've got my problems. I want to help. I want to help transform the economy, really.
I can certainly resonate with a lot what you're saying. There was a point where I still had one foot in, one foot out, where I was a realtor, I was a financial analyst, I was a busboy, server, I was this, that, wearing all these hats, really taking my mind away from my mission, what I should have been putting 110% of my time into. So I could definitely relate to that. But now that we're caught up, let's talk present day. Tell us more about your company. Who is your ideal customer? Who can you serve best?
Yeah, around the country now, we have thousands and thousands of solar installers. And some of them are solar only installers. They're, true solar companies, or they're roofing companies that are getting into solar, or HVAC companies that are getting into solar.
Nice.
And so those home services are growing together. And, but what I do is I help companies that are growing into commercial, from residential. Traditionally in the built environment, commercial and residential are apples and oranges. The equipment is very different. Sure. The sales cycle is very different. The decision makers are different, and it's a more complex sales cycle in commercial. And so, but there is a great opportunity in solar to grow into larger C&I, as we call it, commercial industrial projects. And those resi, as we call them, residential solar companies, end up doing some small commercial, and then they kind of get a taste for, oh, I like this $100,000 project. What if I could do $1 million project or a $5 million project? And then you throw in batteries, and all of a sudden it's a $10 million project. And it's great, and it's a great opportunity, but the tools and technologies that are used in those bigger projects are very different. And so that's really what I try to be an expert at, is understanding what are the software tools you use to run proposals and cash flows, and what are the solar panels, inverters, racking systems that are used in large commercial.
So being a student of the game never ends, you're saying. Even as you become successful, the learning never stops.
Oh, for sure, for sure. Change is the only constant in any technology field. We call it the solar coaster also. There's a lot of ups and downs in solar. Solar is very regional. Some states are booming while other states are busting, and vice versa. It's very dynamic, and you have to go where the opportunity is. You can't just say, well, no matter where I am, this is where I'm going to be, and I'm going to make it work. It won't work in all places. It works in many places, though. So it is a good growth. I like to say, we have 30 years of pure growth in the solar industry, because we're going from, today we're at 6% of grid power from solar. We're going to go to 50% by 2050 in the next 25 years. So we're going to 10x, virtually 10x this industry in the next 25 years. It's a great opportunity.
Well, that's definitely very exciting. Now that we're on the topic of growth, before I ask for some advice for heading into a new state or some growth, it's probably easier to ask, which states are you not doing business in, rather than asking which states are you doing business in at this point, if you have over 1,000 installers. Incredible accomplishment, Tim.
Yeah, I would encourage listeners to look at a map on a website for a company called Sunrun. Okay, they're a national solar installer. They're doing a lot of solar and battery projects. Their main business model is to own the solar panels and lease them to homeowners. You can save more money by buying the solar panels yourself, but you'll see that they're working in about 30 states out of the 50 states. And
Right.
so states like Alabama, Mississippi, down there in the Southeast are not hot.
Where'd he go? Hey, Tim,
Oh,
you're back.
I'm back. Browser died.
I'm sorry, say that again.
The browser crashed in the middle
Hey,
of that conversation.
it's no problem. The tech problems, they come and they go. There's
Yeah.
I don't remember where we were at exactly.
Well, we were saying where solar is good, where it's bad.
Okay, just
and
continue there.
Just know that it's mostly good, Vince. There's, the majority of states now, I would say 30 out of the 50 have good solar markets. And this is some of the major states like New York, Massachusetts, New Jersey. So that upper Northeast, the Mid-Atlantic also, Maryland, the DC area, pretty much booming. Midwest, it's Illinois, Minnesota, and then out west, Colorado, Arizona, California, and then up into the northwest. So most markets where there's lots of people are booming. Now, there's some oddballs like Florida and Texas where small scale, what we call distributed generation or rooftop solar, isn't really a big thing. There are solar panels getting put on homes and small businesses, but it's mostly utility scale solar that you'll see in those places. And that's just the way the utility regulations have played out in those markets. Texas is a bigger state for solar than California now. It's the number one state on a
Wow.
volume basis. So it's very dynamic.
Well, I can't wait to see where it continues to go, and it looks like you're certainly at the forefront of that. Do you have any advice for people interested in solar today? What are some things that they should know just off the bat to save you time as the vendor and them time as the consumer?
Yeah, if you're thinking about going solar, just know you can reduce your power bill by 50 to 75%. You'll never get rid of your power bill totally, okay? That's hogwash. If
Right.
somebody's advertising to crush your power bill 100%, forget about it. But your roof condition is a major factor. You want a roof that's less than 10 years old. Because you don't want to have to tear off the solar panels. Solar panels are going to be there for 25, maybe 30 years. So roof condition is a big thing. Any type of roof can be solarized. You want you want south facing or east or west facing. The north facing slope of a roof is not going to be your best. Uh, in a very sunny climate, you might see this putting solar on the north face just because you will get something out of it in the summer months.
Sure.
Those are the main considerations, and then finding a good installer. Like, it is a bit of the Wild West in any fast growing industry. There's going to be good, bad, ugly, and you want to find the good. So just talk to a couple of installers, get a referral if you can from a neighbor, that kind of thing, and kick the tires, understand what you're buying, make sure they specify what kind of equipment you're going to get, because again, in the equipment space, this is very mature technology now. We've had solar panels for 70 years, and there's good and there's mediocre, and you just want to get the good ones.
Sure.
But there's lots of good products out there, and it's a good way to save money and reduce your carbon footprint at the same time, right? So you do good for the planet, you do good for future generations, and you do good for your pocketbook.
Well, as you continue to impact further generations and putting these solar panels and increase your education and awareness, what's next for you? You mentioned you've eclipsed 1,000 service members on your team. Incredible accomplishment again. What's next for you? What's the next goal?
Well, I was just referring to the thousands of installers out there. I've only helped a few dozen. So
Oh, okay.
there's
Well, I
lots
guess
of
you have. I
room for
guess you
improvement on that front. But I come from the solar industry. I cut my teeth working for a big solar installer in Chicago called Continental. And so I truly understand this industry. I understand solar construction, and I approach it from that perspective. Um, I would just encourage listeners, if you're a solar installer, think about large commercial. It's a great opportunity. It's an underserved segment of our industry because the sales cycles are longer. Like, if you're going to spend $1 million or $5 million, there's lots of things you might do with that money. You could hire, you could do R&D, you could expand your facility in other ways. And this is a facility upgrade, but that's the main impediment or source of friction is there's competing resources or there's competing things to do with those resources. But commercial solar is a fantastic industry. We also have something called community solar, where you build a central array and then consumers in that geographic region can buy the power. And that's also a fast growing segment. So that's something else that I would encourage both consumers and solar business owners to learn more about.
Well, incredible knowledge drop there. Thank you. And I think it's inspiring how you worked for that big company and you put all that knowledge and came Clean Power Consulting Group. Everyone, before I let you go, if you could sit down with any entrepreneur, dead or alive, Tim, whose brain would you choose to pick?
I really like Richard Branson, the Virgin dude, right?
Yep.
He's done so many disparate things. He's so charismatic and optimistic. I would love to just learn more about what makes him tick and why he's done what he did, with Virgin Records, with the airline, the space company. He's done some amazing things, and I think he's an awesome guy. And I used to look up to Elon Musk, but not so much anymore. I think he went to crazy town.
Yeah, well, you as a solar guy can understand where you're coming from. But now back to Branson. If you could pick a place for this to go down, this meeting to happen, where would it be?
Well, I got to go to Necker Island, I think, right? That's the place to be. Apparently, they play pickleball there too, and I'm an avid pickleballer. And Branson is into pickleball now, so I've been following some professional players who have had the opportunity to play at Necker Island.
That sounds like a lot of fun. You'll have to tag him when the show goes out. Request the challenge there on the court. But Tim,
Absolutely. I'm taking you on, Richard.
oh man, well, I had a great time today, Tim. Thank you so much for joining that Entrepreneur Show community. Where can we find you online?
The best place is cleanpowerhour.com. That's my main website. That's my podcast. And then on LinkedIn, I love networking and connecting with people on LinkedIn.
Well, I look forward to seeing all the great things you accomplish now that we're connected. And everyone, be sure to go connect with Tim, learn from his journey, not just in solar, but in entrepreneurship. My name is Vincent A. Lancy, and this is That Entrepreneur Show. Thank you for tuning in to help make this a top 2.5% global podcast. We can't do it without you, and I have to say that twice if I can, because I mean it. You keep the show going over 5 years. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Thank you, Tim, for joining today. And a big shout out to Coming Alive Podcastproduction.com and JohnFord.com. And with that, we're signing off today. Illinois down to Florida. Thanks, Tim.
Thank you, Vince.